The story follows a 16-year-old boy named Hatano Mitsuki, who is constantly anxious and scared. He is troubled by recurring dreams of a childhood friend he once believed to be a boy but later discovered to be a girl. He feels deeply ashamed because of an embarrassing incident when he saw his friend in a compromising situation. This experience has caused him to become socially awkward, particularly around girls, and he now sits alone in the classroom, feeling alienated. He observes that everyone around him is paired up, but they're all jealous about who Hatano has gotten paired with. He has gotten paired up with Nanis. Meanwhile, the love class has started. The class teacher, while giving a lesson, explains to the students the concept of personal space. She explains that personal space can be thought of as a psychological boundary and elaborates that there are different types of space based on proximity. Public distance over 360 centimeters, social distance 120 centimeters, personal distance 45 centimeters, and intimate distance anything closer. She encourages the students to reduce the distance with the person they are paired with. This makes him extremely nervous as he looks at Nanis, who asks him if he has a girlfriend. Embarrassed and sweating, he denies having a girlfriend. Taking the teacher's advice, she moves closer to him and tells him that since he doesn't have a girlfriend, there is no problem with them sitting closer. As she notices his nervousness, she asks if he feels uncomfortable with the proximity. He, in a state of fear, nervously thinks that if she gets that close, he will need to sort out some issues as his heart cannot take such excitement. He can feel everyone's eyes on him as they murmur how lucky he is and what they wouldn't do to swap places with him. The reason being Nanis is perfect in every way, looks, character, and grades. Couple that with the fact that she has an air of mysteriousness and coolness surrounding her. She has become an abstract, symbolic figure around school. She is admired by everyone, and he feels inferior, thinking that his being a socially awkward loner makes it impossible for someone like him to ever get the chance to even talk to her. But now they're sitting so close. His anxiety worsens and he suddenly faints, falling from his chair. His classmates, witnessing his collapse, assume he fainted from excitement and wonder if he needs to go to the hospital. While lying on the floor, he reflects on the mandatory subject of love introduced by the government to address the issue of low birth rates. By encountering love early on, the government believes that this will increase the likelihood of marriage later on. He questions why love is being taught in schools and wonders why it is so crucial. He feels frustrated as his life seems to have spiraled out of control because of this subject. Later, he encounters his teacher, who asks if he is feeling better. He says he is, but is then informed that if he doesn't improve, he may be held back a year. Surprised, he thinks to himself that if love is so important, he may indeed fail. His teacher explains that if students fail in a subject, they will not be promoted, and since love is a mandatory subject, failing it would have consequences. He, confused, asks the teacher what even is the point of studying about love. His teacher emphasizes that that is a question only he can answer, but in order to do that, he needs to gain enough knowledge and experience in love first. To that end, this class can help him. She assigns him supplementary classes to help him improve. As he stands there in confusion, his childhood friend, Enakawa Akane, approaches but slips and falls. She awkwardly exposes herself and he, embarrassed, quickly hides his face. His teacher asks if they knew each other before, to which he explains that they are childhood friends. The scene shifts to the self-study room, where they both sit alone studying. He knows that what he is studying is supplementary material on love, but he doesn't want a lover. Despite his reluctance, she suddenly asks him how he has been, mentioning that it has been a while. She also complains about how difficult the supplementary classes are. He, noticing how close she is getting, asks her to respect his personal space. She, confused by his request, asks him to explain the concept of personal space. He tells her that personal space is a psychological distance they learned about in class. He explains that friends generally maintain a distance of 120 centimeters to 45 centimeters, while social distance is about 120 to 360 centimeters, and public distance is up to 360 centimeters. She, moving away slightly after his explanation, asks if the distance between them is appropriate. He, overwhelmed, tells her to be quiet and lowers his head onto the desk. She, looking at him, laughs and says he is still distant from her as always. He, blaming her for his anxiety, calls her by her nickname, Aya-chan, and she assures him there is no problem with it. He reflects on his childhood memories of her, the girl who caused his trauma. He remembers the moment when he discovered she was a girl and the shame he felt when he saw her naked in a compromising situation. This event left him emotionally scared and unable to talk to any girl without overthinking everything. He blames himself for his social awkwardness, feeling unable to control his anxiety. As he holds his head in his hands, he contemplates that it may be impossible for him to ever learn how to love someone. On the other side, seeing him so worried, she stands there, unable to comprehend what has happened to him. After a moment of contemplation, she declares that he must hate her, judging by the way he acts. He is shocked by her words and asks her why she feels this way. In response, she asks him why he has been avoiding spending time with her. He insists that there is no particular reason and that it doesn't matter. However, she asserts that it does matter to her. Hearing this, he looks at her with surprise. Suddenly, she bursts into tears and explains that ever since he stopped meeting her, she has developed a fear that people dislike her. She goes on to say that she constantly overthinks whether she comes off as too clingy, and all these worries have left her struggling with communication, resulting in her being alone and without any friends. He apologizes, but Enakawa, with an innocent expression, then proposes that he is taking responsibility for everything, he should marry her. Taken aback, he wonders how their conversation has escalated to this point. He reflects that it has been quite a while since they last spoke, yet she does not seem to be acting any differently. He stands there, visibly troubled, has thoughts about his past interactions with her run through his mind, especially recalling the moment when he saw her naked. He feels that, rather than him, it should be her who hates him. After a brief pause, he tries to explain to her that marriage is not something to be spoken about lightly. He questions whether she even understands the true meaning of marriage. To his surprise, she confidently begins to explain that if they were to marry, they would no longer have to study the love subject anymore. He responds sarcastically, asking if she thinks she's some kind of genius, but she insists that he listen carefully to everything she says. Before she can continue, he interrupts, stating that marriage is an inherent issue and not something he can agree to. She becomes frustrated, demanding to know what he means. He hesitates, nervous, and admits that he has always struggled to be around girls, and that this has always been the case for him. She is taken aback by his revelation and reflects on their past, remembering how they used to be good friends who played together. He explains further, sharing that at that time he had thought she was a boy, but later discovered that she was actually a girl. Her eyes widen in surprise as she processes his words. He becomes consumed by his thoughts, listing out all the boyish attributes she used to display, arguing that he should hardly be the one to blame. Passionately, she points at him, her voice rising as she claims to understand everything now. She explains that this is why he stopped meeting her after they went to the bath together. In a panic, he places both hands on his face, apologizing and stating that he had been trying to tell her this all along. She, now feeling embarrassed, places both hands on her chest and admits that she now understands it was because he has just realized her body and is now feeling weird looking at her. In response, he says that at the time, she was flat-chested. He tells her that it is regretful, but he is ashamed of himself for being nervous simply because they are of different genders. He confesses that he dislikes this part of himself. He stands up, grabs his bag, and apologizes again, explaining that everything was a result of him overthinking things. As he heads toward the door, she grabs his bag, refusing to let him leave. He is taken aback and asks her why. She responds that he cannot leave because he must not turn into a delinquent, and then he knows well that he could fail the year if he doesn't stay. This unexpected reaction causes him to ask why she is so angry and demands that she let go of his bag. She hits him with it, causing him to fall to the ground. As he looks up in confusion, asking her what she is doing, she sits on top of him and, with a puzzled expression, comments on how strange it is that someone's heart races for someone of the opposite sex. He is stunned by the situation, unable to process what is happening. She continues, explaining that everyone has someone they like, someone who makes their heart race, and questions if it is truly strange for someone to feel nervous in such situations. With a serious tone, she expresses that while she cannot speak for others, she cannot control her emotions when it comes to such matters. She then asks him if he feels the same way about anyone, surely only towards a special someone. He tells her that it is not like that, but he still doesn't understand what's happening. She asks again, persistently demanding to know who makes his heart race, and insists that he share the truth with her. He becomes increasingly nervous and starts sweating, feeling completely confused. Just as he begins to respond, two other girls enter, talking among themselves. One of the girls mentions that they might have heard someone was here. They seem to have forgotten something, and after a brief discussion, they leave. For some reason, they hid beneath the teacher's desk. Aochan watches them go, saying that everything is now clear. She turns to him with a smile, but he remains anxious and trembling, drenched in sweat. She asks if he is okay, and he remembers her earlier words about how strange it feels when someone's heart races for the opposite sex. She gently lifts him and sits him down, her actions hesitant, while he reflects on how he once thought he would always feel embarrassed talking to girls. However, now he recognizes that this is a normal part of life. He reflects on how he has always denied his own faults and feels that the time has come for him to confront his true feelings. As she shakes him, urging him to answer and not avoid the situation, he admits that he wants to begin taking the love classes. He acknowledges that he once thought he was the only one who was strange, but now he realizes that he cannot continue to only think about himself. He confesses that she was right and that it is time for him to face his own emotions. Hearing this, she is left stunned and confused. He then tells her that despite everything, he cannot definitively say if he likes someone or not because he has never been in a relationship before. He suggests that perhaps if he continues his studies, things may change. After a moment of deep thought, he admits that if taking romance classes is necessary for him to understand love, then he will do so. She is left speechless, unable to understand what has just transpired. He thanks her for everything, acknowledging that she has been the catalyst for his realization. He mentions his classmate Nanis Al, confessing that he has always been thinking about her. Hearing this, she is shocked and filled with anger, becomes speechless. He recalls and explains to her that when he collapsed in class and later woke up in the infirmary, Nanis Al was sitting in front of him. He was surprised when she told him that his blood seemed fine. He explains that his fall was quite dramatic, and she had been the one to ensure he was okay. Nanis, somewhat irritated, tells him not to waste people's time with such trivialities and insists that he focus on his health. He apologizes to her with embarrassment, and then she reassures him to take care of himself before leaving. After this, his teacher then approaches, expressing concern about his well-being. She mentions that when he was unconscious, Nanis was the one who brought him to the hospital and stayed by his side until he regained consciousness. He is shocked by this revelation and asks the teacher if she really did all of that for him. He admits that he has never been able to get closer, but now realizes that if she cares about him that much, she must be a very good person. He shares that when Nanis sat next to him in class earlier, her cheeks were turning red, and he acknowledges that the feelings he has are indeed connected to her. After hearing everything, Enakawa is shocked and becomes angry. She explains that she didn't realize he had collapsed. Noticing her anger, he asks why she's upset. To gauge his reaction, she claims she has fallen in love with Nanis Ren-kun. He is surprised and asks if she means Nanis' younger brother. She confirms that he again asks the same Nanis Ren-kun, who is just as popular and handsome. She again confirms it. She then asks if he's upset, to which he replies that he isn't. She jokes that the boy is far superior to him, and he affirms her words. She wants him to have some confidence as she believes Ren-kun isn't better than him. He responds loudly, saying she has lost him. She becomes saddened, stepping back in confusion, and asks if he thinks that's the reason she's in the love supplemental classes. He realizes what she means and offers to help her get Nanis Ren if she helps him with Nanis Ren's sister. She mistakenly thinks this means he is proposing. He smiles and they shake hands, joking about how their foolish romances might actually come true. He reflects on how this all feels like something from the past. He feels confused about the future, but she smiles and reassures him that this is the first step in her love lessons. She suggests that he should go confess his love to her right now, leaving him surprised. The following day, their teacher asks Nanis to explain the meaning of a word written on the board. She rises from her seat and provides the definition, explaining that confession refers to the act of expressing one's feelings and thoughts to someone. Her response garners the attention of the entire class, who regard her with admiration and surprise. He watches her, reflecting on how she always seems perfect in everything she does, especially the two girls sitting behind him discussing how they could listen to her enchanting voice forever. In his mind, she has always been flawless. As the class praises her, he grows nervous and uneasy, a strange expression crossing his face as he begins to sweat. He wonders whether his own feelings for her might be love. At that moment, her gaze unexpectedly shifts toward him. In a panic, he quickly hides his face behind a book, trying to mask his confusion and turmoil. Deep down, he wonders about his recent experiences and how he has begun studying love alongside his childhood friend Enakawa, who also harbors unrequited feelings. Together, they study the concept of love, yet he remains perplexed, wondering why, despite all of this, he has not yet confessed his emotions to Nanis as Ikanawa had told him to. Later in the study room, where he is practicing today's lesson, the book explains that a confession is essentially about confirming mutual feelings, and it should not be approached as a gamble. As he reads, she enters, greeting him warmly and complimenting him, comparing him to the moon and praising his appearance. She points out the furrow between his eyebrows, which gives him a troubled expression. He dislikes her comment, responding with frustration, insisting that it isn't true and that he is troubled with the confessions they had planned. He reminds her that she was the one who had talked about confessing to Nanis and that she had initiated the idea of exploring this topic in the first place. She, puzzled, seems to not remember what it was they had talked about yesterday. He, still anxious and conflicted, tells her that if she is not serious about it, she should leave. His words seem to upset her, and she responds in anger, defending her earlier statement that she was indeed serious about confessing. She insists that she had meant it, and she doesn't want him to dismiss it as something trivial. Realizing his mistake, he suggests they first try writing a love letter. Still in a state of confusion, frustration, and anger, he exclaims that writing a love letter feels too serious. Questioning why she's so eager to proceed this way, She, speaking candidly, responds that she is curious to see what kind of letter he would write in this situation. His confusion deepens as he cannot fully understand what she means. He finds her actions and words increasingly strange, but she grabs his hand and leads him toward a chair, urging him to sit. Despite her insistence, he feels uncomfortable with the sudden decision to confess, which seems odd to him. As the situation unfolds, her foot slips, causing him to fall on top of her. In the process, due to the nature of her clothes, he inadvertently sees more than he intended, which surprises him. He begins to sweat nervously and, in a moment of panic, screams loudly. He quickly rises to his feet, feeling intensely embarrassed, and apologizes, explaining that it was not intentional. She, equally flustered, calls him foolish for the situation. At that moment, their teacher enters the room, immediately noticing the awkwardness between them and asking if they are truly studying. In an attempt to divert the teacher's attention, he casually mentions that they are continuing their studies. However, the teacher is not convinced by his response. She takes a seat and, with a stern expression, informs him that she is certain he hasn't even glanced at his assignments. Expressing her disbelief, she states that she came here out of concern for him, only to find that he has been neglecting his work. Disappointed, she comments that, instead of focusing on their studies, they appear to have been engaged in flirtation. She turns to him, telling him not to offer excuses or attempt to argue the situation. She asks, with a hint of sarcasm, if he was going to claim that they were practicing for adult romance lessons. He tries to clarify that nothing of the sort is happening, but before he can explain further, the teacher interrupts, growing increasingly frustrated. She tells them, in an angry tone, that they have no idea what kind of situation they are creating for themselves. She warns them that if they continue down this path, they will likely have to repeat the year. Both of them stand there, apologizing in a frustrated and embarrassed manner. However, the teacher then mentions that if they are seriously considering writing a love letter to their crush, they should remember that they are remedial students. At this, they lower their heads, feeling dejected and ashamed. The teacher, noticing their downcast expressions, finds the situation oddly intriguing. In a frustrated tone, the teacher scolds him, pointing out that he has already skipped the assigned work yet is still engaging in such conversations. She expresses disbelief, unable to understand how he can say such things after neglecting his responsibilities. With an air of finality, the teacher announces that their new assignment will be for each of them to write a love letter to the person they like. Both of them stand in shock, taken completely by surprise by this unexpected task. She instructs them to carefully think about how they will express their feelings and adds that she has no intention of interfering in their personal lives. However, she makes it clear that, as their teacher, she will respect their decision as much as possible. His mind races, unable to comprehend the unfolding events. Turning her attention to Enakawa, the teacher asks for her approval, and after a moment of stunned silence, she reluctantly accepts. The teacher then informs them that she will be waiting for the reports and leaves the room. Later, he reflects on the situation, thinking about how he will write a letter to Nanis, while Enakawa will have to write a love letter to Ren-kun. He finds the entire situation baffling. Stretching his arms, she mutters that this has turned into a complicated ordeal. He tells her in a serious tone that she is the one who started all of this, and asks how she plans to express her feelings of love. As they sit close to one another, an accidental brush of his elbow against her chest causes him to quickly move away and apologize once again. When she doesn't move away, he becomes irritated and tells her that she is sitting too close and requests that she move further away to write his letter. She seems unaware that she had to write a letter as well. He is sunk deep in thought, contemplating how he will write his love letter. Both of them, with heads full of thoughts, prepare to sit in their respective places to complete the assignment. He moves to his seat and, with a serious tone, asks her if she truly likes Nanis Ren-kun. He explains that understanding her feelings may help him in writing his own love letter. She, with a sense of disappointment, looks down, pondering which aspects of her feelings to include in her letter. He asks again, pressing her on whether she really likes him. Frustrated by his repeated questioning, she responds firmly, confirming that she does indeed like him. She then inquires why he continues to doubt her and why he keeps asking the same question. In turn, he clarifies that he is not doubting her feelings, but is simply curious about which aspects of Nanis Ren-kun she likes the most. After a brief pause, she admits that she likes his face the most, though she adds that there are many other things she admires about him. He sits back, reflecting that she must certainly be in love with Nanis Ren-kun's appearance.
Here I am.